Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. And today we're taking a look at two of the best folding pocket knives that you can get for just 50 bucks. It's the Buck Sprint Select versus the CIVIVI Elementum. Let's check them out. So let's say that you've got 50 bucks set aside for your next EDC pocket knife. Now fortunately, there's plenty of solid knives out there to choose from. Today I'm going to run you through a couple of our favorite recent models that fit our criteria for an average sized everyday carry. They're not too big and not too small and versatile enough to do any job. We've got one from China, the CIVIVI Elementum, as well as the all-American Buck Sprint Select. Alright, I'm going to start by comparing the blades side by side. Now you can see that the Elementum has a no-frills drop point profile, and the Buck Sprint is also a drop point, but has a slightly pointier tip and a more dynamic shape overall. The Buck also has a little bit more length as well. Now, according to the spec sheet, they're actually pretty close. The Buck comes in with a 3 1/8 inch blade, measured from the leading edge of the handle out to the tip itself, while the CIVIVI comes in just shy of 3 inches. When it comes to the actual amount of sharpened edge though, the Buck pulls away with a full 1/2 inch more of usable edge. Now the reason that difference is so big is mainly because the Elementum features a broad space ahead of the flipper tab, and that's big enough to fit your index finger. So basically you trade off a little bit of edge for the ability to more finely manipulate the blade, especially out there at the tip. Now when it comes to the steel itself, the CIVIVI uses D2 tool steel. It's got semi-stainless properties and very capable edge retention, although this can be a little bit harder to sharpen than some of the other inexpensive steels out there. Meanwhile, the Buck Sprint features 420HC stainless steel with a stone-washed finish. And that finish is going to allow scratches on the blade to blend in as you use it over time, especially when you compare it to the satin finish on the CIVIVI. Now it should be pretty easy to say here that the edge retention on the D2 of the CIVIVI should be higher than the Buck. However, Buck is recognized for getting more performance out of their 420HC than anyone else out there. I will say from personal experience sharpening Buck's 420HC that it requires moderately more effort than the same steel from other manufacturers because its abrasion resistance directly tied to the edge holding is definitely higher. So without having been able to actually edge test these two knives side by side, we can only make an educated guess, but the gap is probably a lot closer than you would think. Now both of these knives are flippers, which means you can get to the blade in a heartbeat just as soon as you pull it out of your pocket. A press on the tab on the back is enough to send the blade around nearly friction-free thanks to ball bearings in the pivots of both of these knives. The CIVIVI has nice, crisp action, overcoming its detent with an easy straight-down push of the flipper tab. Now the Buck actually feels a little bit different than many flippers out there, and that's mostly because the detent is definitely lighter with this design. It's not quite as crisp, and it requires a little bit more of a light switching motion with your finger, but I've really grown to appreciate the silky feel of this blade when it's in motion. The handle even has a nice landing pad here right behind the blade. It's this little cutout that feels like it cushions your finger when you're opening the blade, as opposed to the straight back on the CIVIVI. Now I don't mean to give off the wrong impression, the CIVIVI's not uncomfortable at all, but the Buck is just a little bit more comfortable. But while we're on the subject of the handles, this is where the imported CIVIVI pulls out its big advantage, and that's handle materials. The Elementum features flat G10 handle scales over top of dual liners and the liner lock, and that G10 is available in a range of color options, and wood is even sometimes available too. Meanwhile, the Buck Sprint uses FRN, which is fiberglass reinforced nylon, also available in several different colors with some contrasting back spacers that are usually Cerakoted. Now while the FRN is not as quote-unquote nice, they do it really well, with nice dual inset liners and lock, and a nice scooped out character line that makes a great place for your fingertips to grab hold of when they're wrapped around the handle. Continuing that trend set by the blade, the handle is a little bit longer than on the Elementum. When held lightly, it sits in a 3.5 finger grip for me, with an easy wraparound for my pinky at the back of the handle. But there is enough length that when I grasp it firmly, I'm able to get a full 4 finger grip for when you really need to bear down on a cut. And even though it has a single finger groove here at the front, it's large enough and a gentle enough radius that I don't see it getting in the way for most hand sizes out there. But the CIVIVI's shape is even more neutral than the Buck's, with no grooves and a smoother profile that should work for just about any hand size out there. For me, in a light grip, it's technically a 3.5 finger design, but it feels more like a 3 finger grip due to the rounded end here at the back, and yet I can still choke up for a 4-finger grip. I just have to go a little bit above the finger tab with my index finger to do it. That's okay though, because most of your grip strength is actually going to come from your back 2 fingers anyway, and I definitely have a solid hold on this knife. Now as far as how these knives carry in your pocket, both are about the same weight at roughly 3 ounces, so they're not going to weigh you down too much. But if you want to keep pocket clutter to a minimum, the Elementum pulls ahead slightly here due to its smaller proportions. But not by much. The Buck isn't unreasonable at all and only takes up just a little bit more room than the CIVIVI. Both of these knives feature single position pocket clips set up for right side tip up carry. The Buck's is mounted to the Cerakoted back spacer, and while it is folded over, it isn't quite deep carry. It keeps it pretty low while still being easy to access. That clip also has a nice stone-washed finish that really integrates well with the blade itself. The Elementum features a true deep carry clip with a blackened finish. This is not a painted clip, so it's not going to chip off over time, and they've screwed it into the outside of the G10 scale. Although it's not going to be difficult to retrieve your knife from your pocket, this type of design is going to require a slightly more considered grip when you go for the knife. But to make things easier, you could attach a lanyard through the holes in either of the liners or both, which is a feature that the Buck does not have. As far as maintenance, both knives feature an adjustable pivot and open-backed construction too, so both are going to easily clear pocket lint when you need to clean it, often with just a blow of air. Which brings us, of course, to the question at hand: which knife would you put in your pocket? Would you take the Buck Sprint Select or the CIVIVI Elementum? Or maybe there's another knife out there that's worth your $50. Be sure to let us know in the comments what your choice would be, and to get your hands on either of these great designs, you can use the links in the description to head over to KnifeCenter.com. Thanks for sticking around. If you want to see more comparisons like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel, and let us know what other comparisons you might like us to do in the comments as well. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.
Okay.
A semi-stainless steel with properties, with properties.
It's properties.
Especially the tip.
Can't use.
Don't use that. Don't use that.
Beans.
Bubbles.